The Catwalk Podcast showcases the greatest of the people of the Permian Basin through partnering and conversation with high-level leaders, social entrepreneurs, nonprofit leadership, and industry executives.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another day of broadcast excellence on the Catwalk. I am your host, Jay Whitlow, and as always, sitting right across the room is my good friend, Chris Stegall. What's up, Chris?
Oh, not a lot. How are you?
Well, I was doing good, but I've got something I need to run by you.
My day's always better when your day is not good.
Okay, well then you're going to like this one because I need to be talked through this, okay? Last week, I celebrated my 7th anniversary of turning 50 years old. And every year that I celebrate my anniversary of turning a birthday age, my mother-in-law gifts me a sum of money, okay? I'm not going to tell you how much, but it's a nice sum of money. She likes me. I might be her favorite, but she gives me some money for my birthday. So I'm in desperate need of a new pair of tennis shoes, sneakers, whatever you want to call them. But I have a question because this came up in a conversation with somebody. I'm too old, apparently, to wear the trendy Air Jordan shoes. Help me with this, is there an age where you can no longer wear the trendy Air Jordan shoes?
I don't think there's an age, but I do know once you have kids, you're relegated to New Balances. That's all you're allowed to wear now is New Balance shoes, crew socks, and shorts.
Okay. I'm not that old.
No, I didn't say an age. You're a dad. So that's what you're only allowed to wear now.
Okay, so if you have kids, whether you're 25 or my age, you can only wear. Okay, that's not true. Okay.
No, that is true. You can also wear Hey Dudes. You're allowed to wear Hey
with
Dudes
socks.
Too. With socks, yeah.
With socks, but seriously, is there so like Converse shoes or some of the trendy shoes that the teenagers and young adults are wearing? Is there an age that I can no longer pull that off?
I don't think there's an age, but like I said, like you are in the realm of New Balance.
My dad, when he was alive, would only wear one pair of shoes, and they were maybe New Balance or maybe they were Fila brand shoes, and they were always white. Solid white, and I just swore I would never, ever dress like that. And so I want some trendy shoes, and I was kind of taken back that this cat told me, you're too old to wear those trendy shoes. If you don't remember, Chris, Air Jordans came out in what? Late 80s, mid 80s?
Yeah, weren't they? He was transitioning from college to pro.
Right.
At the time.
Okay. So I'm a product of that age. When I was a teenager, it was in the 80s, right? I graduated high school in 85. So these teenagers and young adults today would not have Air Jordans if it weren't for me and my generation.
So you don't get to gatekeep the shoes. You don't get to gatekeep them. It's the same idea as saying, I grew up in the age of a Tamagotchi, and since I'm 41 years old, I can still carry a Tamagotchi on my keychain. No, that was left behind years ago. You left that behind. You get 2 pairs of shoes. You get 1 clean white pair, and you get a lawn mowing pair.
That's true. That is very true, at least for the lawn mowing pair, okay? And don't cut me down on the lawn mowing pair, but I can't wear just a white pair of New Balance tennis shoes. In fact, here's the thing. Air Jordan or Michael Jordan, he's 61 now, so you're telling me that he can't wear his own shoes?
Okay, so what does the Air Whitlows look like then? You can wear your own pair of shoes.
Maybe we should design our own pair of tennis shoes.
No.
Wouldn't that be fun?
No.
I'm going to get onto that. getting my own pair of tennis shoes?
Nope. New Balances. That's your own pair of tennis shoes.
Well, I tell you what, I am going to take that money and I am going to buy me a pair of trendy shoes. And I cannot wait for somebody, as I'm walking down the streets of Midland, to point it out to me that I am too old to wear those trendy shoes.
You're going to look like that old pastor that has the frosted tips and the sparkle jeans that has like the rhinestones on the rear pocket of them.
Oh, the bling jeans?
Yeah, you're going to look like that everyone points at and says, look at this guy. He's still trying to pretend he's 25.
Yeah. Well, I would love to be 25 again because, 57 is actually the new 35.
I think you're more like 62.
No, I'm 57. So, yeah, don't get me into the 60s yet. But I am going to ask our guest today if it's appropriate for somebody my age to pull off the trendy shoe. I'm also going to ask our guest how long she can hold her breath underwater. How long can you hold your breath?
Not very long.
Not very. When was the last time you tried it?
I don't remember at all. I don't think I've ever tried to hold, I guess I've been underwater before, but I've never timed it.
On purpose?
Yes, on purpose.
Or accidentally underwater?
One time. But yeah, most of the time usually is on purpose.
Well, our guest today is a local swim instructor, and she is an entrepreneur and has started her own business here. So let me just tell you a little bit about Jessica McCoy. Jessica swam competitively for 22 years, where she competed both nationally and internationally on the nationally ranked University of Texas club team called the Texas Longhorn Aquatics. Then she signed with Southern Methodist University as a student athlete on scholarship, where she had the opportunity to graduate with 2 Bachelor of Arts degree in English Literature and Sociology. Upon graduation from SMU in 2014, Jessica obtained a graduate certificate from SMU's Cox School of Business in Accounting and Finance. She is now currently getting her Master of Education in Sports Management at the University of Texas in Austin. Her coaching style can best be described as compassionate, patient, and adaptable toward her students. She is passionate about coaching children without fear as a motivator, using evidence-based curriculum to support parents to foster children reaching their potential. She's married to her husband of nearly 7 years, Matthew, who is a native Midlander, and they have 2 children under the age of 5. So I encourage you after the break to enjoy my conversation with Jessica McCoy.
Elevate your operation with Performance Chemical Company, the pioneers in redefining chemical solutions for the oil and gas industry in the Permian Basin. Unveiling groundbreaking ideas since 2017, our dry chemistry plant stands as a testament to innovation. Our products and services revolutionize water treatment, production, midstream, and saltwater disposals. We're your strategic partners in optimizing investments, slashing operating expenses. Performance Chemical Company. How you get there matters.
Welcome back to the Catwalk. We're so grateful that you're joining with us today, and I am joined by my new friend. This is Jessica McCoy. Welcome to the Catwalk.
Hey, I'm happy to be here.
Hey, I am excited about this conversation because when I heard that you are an entrepreneur and you started a brand new business of swimming, I was like, whoa, I've got to find out about this. So,
Very sweet.
So let's start from your journey.
Yeah.
You're not from Midland.
No, I'm not.
So how did you get to Midland?
Yeah, great question. I call myself an import, much like a Ferrari. No, I'm totally kidding. My husband was born and raised here. My in-laws, I think, have been here. They're going to kill me if I get it wrong. I think more than 45 years.
Yeah.
So it's been, or 40 years, probably around there. And this is my favorite place I've actually ever lived. And I know a lot of people.
Midland.
I'm not kidding.
Wow.
And a lot of people always look at me and they're like, right, who paid you to say that?
Right.
But I grew up the first 8 years of my life in Houston, and then I moved to Austin because of one of my parents' promotion, and I moved there. Well, we lived there probably from 8 to 18, and then I moved to Dallas to go to SMU, and I met my husband at a Super Bowl party, believe it or not, 10 years ago. So
Well, who was playing in the Super Bowl?
the Seahawks. And I want to
Tom Brady?
Yes, and the New England Patriots. So it was 2014.
Of course, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that the Patriots won that game.
Sure, of course.
Yeah, of
I mean,
course.
it's Tom Brady.
Okay, so you met your husband in Dallas, and you went to SMU.
Yep, I swam there.
So and we'll talk about the
Yeah.
swimming in a little bit because I'm very excited about that piece.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you end up in Midland? Was it his job?
Well, yeah, so he
Did
was
you win
actually
the lottery? I mean,
Great
what
question.
happened?
That's a great question. So he was actually living in Fort Worth at the time
Right.
as a civil engineer. And he was just kind of like, man, I'm not sure if this is what I want to do. He's an Aggie. We don't hold it against him.
No, we
Aggies
don't.
come after me. But he was a civil engineer by trade and by education. But he wasn't really feeling passionate about what he was doing. And his dad, being in the oil field for his entire career, said absolutely no oil field because this man, my father-in-law, had gone through the 80s bust and has felt, he felt much like other Midlanders
Right.
in the 80s and 90s, that pain that they all went through when the oil field kind of crashed for a while, right? So with that, his father was very active in trying to pursue, tell the boys, my brother-in-law and my husband, that they really needed to focus more on a different type of engineering. So anyway, Matt moved out and worked in Louisiana for a little bit and then moved to Fort Worth to do civil engineering. So at the time that I met him, I was just about to graduate from college and he was living in this I don't know, and come to find out, he decided to take a pause from his job, and we drove across the country to Charleston, and we were like, this is either going to be terrible 6 weeks in, or this is going to be pretty great, and it ended up being pretty great. So one of the reasons why I moved to Midland too, like I said, I was willing to take a chance, but I'm also I'm really comfortable with failure. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I have learning disabilities. So, and I mean, my adoption too, has really, really impacted me. I feel like, and I hate the woe is me thing, because I just don't think that you should really make your circumstance your personality.
Right.
But for me, it's very difficult to separate the challenges of my life with what really inspires me to do what I do every day.
Okay, now there's a lot there in
Yeah.
that statement. So bear with me because I'm going to have to
Yeah.
unpack that a
Break
little
that
bit.
down.
Okay, so let's talk about the adoption
Yeah,
first.
absolutely.
So I am an advocate for adoption. My oldest is adopted. So
It's great.
share with what you feel comfortable with
Yeah.
of your story.
And I appreciate that very much. Part of the things with, as you know, as an adoptive parent, there's so many things that can be really raw for some people and where some people are very comfortable with. So I appreciate you asking.
Yeah.
For me, my adoption, it's such a complicated story because I know a lot more than I think what most people know. But I don't know a lot, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So, for instance, I'm the third person in my immediate family to be adopted. My uncle and my adopted uncle, if we're using technicality
Right.
words. 'Cause for most people, I could tell you as an adoptive parent one thing, but I think for the general audience, we got to really break down titles. So, for instance, my adopted uncle and my adopted mother are both adopted. So, yeah.
The
So
trifecta. Yeah.
so I was really lucky to be able to have an adopted mother,
Right.
and an adoptive uncle who could really understand when I was struggling with some of the big emotions that come with being adopted. So some of those emotions are who am I in relation to all these people? If I don't look like them, I don't sound like them, I don't like the same things.
Right.
Sometimes being adopted makes you feel like an anonymous person in a room that everyone is pressuring you to feel like you should fit in,
That's a great point.
if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's difficult with that is if you don't, I'm not saying anything about you because you might have a totally different experience with your child, but sometimes adoptive parents, and really I would say more outside world, tend to infantilize children who are adopted. So that means just thinking that they can't think for themselves because everyone else around them knows them and their situation better. And understandably, when you're an adopted child, you're dealing with sometimes CPS, sometimes you're dealing with the foster care system. Back in the 90s, it was very different than what my mom experienced, my adoptive mother experienced. She was actually in an orphanage we actually don't know a lot. She was either in an orphanage from 0 to 3, or back in the 50s, it was very common for single fathers to leave their children at a boarding house where the children would get meals Monday through Friday, and then because dad was working,
Sure.
and where we think my adopted mother's father was working was in the steel mill in Ohio. So it was very common for them to be taken care of throughout the week. But then on the weekends, they'd go home to dad and be taken care of. But that's all. We don't really know if that's actually a true story about her. But, through American adoptions, you hear stories and they get passed around.
Right.
For my uncle, my adoptive uncle, I actually have no idea. We don't know anything. So for me, it's a little bit different. So I'm actually a product of an affair. My birth mother had an affair with her son's baseball coach. And I know how much of a soap opera that sounds like, but that's actually the
I think
truth.
I've seen that story.
I know, right? Lifetime.
Yeah. Netflix series.
Exactly. So what happened is, she was just in a really dysfunctional marriage.
Right.
And I think everyone has the capability of struggling, and she did for sure. And her husband at the time kicked her out when she found out that she was pregnant. And from what I understand about my adoption is that my birth mother was in a women's shelter with me and my half siblings from the first month of pregnancy up until about the 8.5 month of pregnancy. So right up until she had me.
Wow.
And then her father came down from Wichita and took her in and said, "You're going to have this kid with us." So, and then my adoption was one where my adoptive parents were there. So, my adoptive mother was able to take me out of the hospital. So it was really
From day one.
from day one.
Wow.
So, it goes back to, I think a lot of people, when you interact with a child who's adopted, I think sometimes they're like, okay, well, how old were you when you were adopted? Because that is a valid question, right?
Sure.
I think that's a great question to lead with when you're talking to somebody who's adopted. But for me, it was from day one. So it always begs the question, is Jessica the reason why the reason why Jessica is the way that she is it because of nature versus nurture? So
Great thought. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And I'm fascinated. I'm very much a nerd. Okay. I hyper focus on my job because I love what I do.
Right.
And then I'm also a huge genealogy nerd. So
You're tracing it.
I love it. I have been able to go back to about 5 generations on my dad's side to find out that they are as Louisiana can come. So
Duck Dynasty, Louisiana.
yes, Monroe. They're actually from
Yeah.
Monroe. So
funny.
I know, and I know a lot of people from Monroe that are here. So it's really neat.
In Midland?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Well, because
One never gets that.
I know. Well,
I guess
it's
oil and
Louisiana.
gas. Yeah. Okay.
But for true Cajuns, especially down south, they
Yeah.
consider that Arkansas. So,
Okay.
it's just
That's funny.
It's supposed to be funny.
Now, with my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
we had this issue because we got her when she was born. She was preemie.
Oh, little.
Did you ever struggle with when you got sick? Or
Yes.
something happened, you're like, oh, do you have that history in your family? And you're like, don't know. I have
Yes.
no idea.
Yeah.
How did you handle that?
I think that actually, the whole medical question, I think a lot of the reason why I'm so into genealogy is because I've had to be my own medical advocate. I actually have a blood clotting disorder that we didn't even discover until I was 21. I lost a lot of circulation in my left arm.
Right.
Weirdly enough, I was doing my laundry in Dallas and I banged my arm literally right here
Right.
on my apartment building was an old building in Highland Park and it had a basement and I banged my arm getting my laundry basket on the stairs. And I was like, oh, that really, really hurt. I go to work out and then literally my arm turns purple. And my mom was like,
Yeah.
it's probably a bug bite. It's fine.
Of course.
As a parent, put some Windex on it, right?
Yeah.
It's
Duct tape.
you're really fine.
Yeah.
And no, then I started feeling like I was gonna die. Which, if you ever feel the impending sense of doom,
Right.
it literally feels like you're like, I have to go somewhere.
Right.
I need help. It's not. You really do need to go to the hospital. I joke about that all the time because I used to have really bad anxiety. I still kind of do, but it's more controlled now. And this is like a light switch. And you really have to, as an athlete, I really do know my body very, very well.
Right.
So it was very strange to have something that kind of overrid all of my own sensibilities.
It's out of your control.
Yes. So that being said, I have this blood clot and the ER doctor, and if there's any ER doctors that listen to your podcast, I apologize, but anyone else in the medical field will agree with me.
Yeah.
ER doctors are like a guy who took 4 Celsius energy drinks and chugged them and watched an episode of Top Gun or like some sort of adrenaline junkie.
ER.
Yes, not so much that because they'd probably be criticizing the whole
True.
thing.
Yeah,
but
probably.
it's more of like they're like so much adrenaline junkies, and I love them.
Brilliant. how
I
you said
love
that.
thank you, but I love them because they're so like they're in fight or flight all day long. So their neural pathways are just making connections, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like my hematologist. Anyway, let me back out. Let me back out
Yeah.
a little bit. My ER doctor at First Pres in Dallas was like, let's cut her arm off. She only has 80% circulation in her left arm. And then my hematologist was on call because they were like, okay, this girl's 21 years old. She has no medical complications. She's not on any medication that would cause her to clot.
Right.
Why is she clotting?
And you swim, so you need your arms.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like they also labeled me as an SMU swimmer. So like if you don't know, if you're an NCAA swimmer, your medical care is insane. You have doctors for everything. So if on paper I should have been in perfect health. No, I have hereditary high blood pressure, and now I have a blood clotting disorder. So
At 21.
At 21.
Wow.
So this hematologist came in and he was like, "Let's pump the brakes. Let's give her some warfarin, which is like the worst pain I've ever felt. I mean, I've done childbirth twice. I've had a complication with my epidural. Warfarin is the worst pain I've ever been in.
Really?
It burns so bad. So they go like this, like an EpiPen,
Right.
and they sent me home, and now I'm on aspirin. So you're right. Medical, like having a medical history as an adopted person, it requires you to be very organized. So like I'm very good at advocating for myself,
Okay.
which
Yeah.
I have disabilities, like I said. So I have dyslexia and dysgraphia. So like that's
You know,
kind of
you're
medical.
describing my family right now. This is really, you're a fascinating person
Just wait
now.
till we
This
start
is-
talking about generational
Yeah,
trauma.
wait till we
and
get
then
to
it'll
there.
blow your
Okay.
mind.
Okay. All right. So with the learning
Disabilities. Yeah.
dyslexia and disabilities, how did you work through that?
Yeah, it's a great question. You can't really work through it, but you can find ways to accommodate yourself if nobody else is going to accommodate you. So this ties really nicely into why I do what I do. So having all this ability to be able to articulate myself in a way that advocates not only for me medically, but also the fact that whenever you're adopted, everyone always wants to know your story. Right? You're like the token fun person. They're like, oh my gosh, tell me more. Because not a lot of people knew.
Tell me more.
Like in the 80s.
When did you understand your story?
I've always known. I think
Okay,
that's a great thing. If you're planning
that's
on
huge.
adopting, you
Yep.
should tell your children. I'm not going to tell you how to raise your kid, but with
Yep.
this, my adopted
That's
mom
huge.
always knew, my uncle always knew, and I always knew.
Yeah.
And it has helped me identify who I am, like my soul. I'm not talking about like the woke stuff. I'm talking more of like who within my soul am I?
Mm-hmm.
And that can either scare people or it can really some people find me very like that they can find parts of themselves within me because I am 100% willing to be vulnerable.
Right.
And I think for a lot of people that's comforting. So anyway, to go into like my dyslexia and my dysgraphia, when you have learning disabilities, you absolutely have to advocate for yourself. Because I had a 504 modification plan, which means I'm given extra time and certain things in my education that help me kind of make it a little bit more equitable for me to be in public education. So anyone who's a teacher knows what a 504 is if you work in public education. So you know, because you were in community college. So anyway, with that, you have to work with teachers, and I'm sure you know this from your educational background. There are some teachers and some coaches that think it's an excuse.
Right.
Or
And
think
they'll play on that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Or like or my mom was an educator and like they were always like, "Oh, well your mom is in these 504 modification like meetings to basically where you establish care for the student."
Right.
Well, you need to be in here, not your mom. And I'm like, I'm 10 years old. You're going to expect me to like talk about like my federal rights? No.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Like, what are federal rights?
I know,
Yeah.
like protected with
Yeah.
the, your disabilities. And it's so interesting because it's a double-edged sword. These adults expect little kids to like advocate for themselves, and they're constantly saying, if you don't tell your teacher what your accommodations are, then you shouldn't have them. And if you talk to somebody who has ADHD, who has
Again,
dyslexia,
you're talking to me.
dysgraphia, like there's a lot of interconnectedness behind that.
Right.
And I mean, that's very difficult. So there's a lot of self-worth issues that come with that. I think just until recently, I've started to grapple with the fact that I actually am a functioning human being. You know, do I need additional help through, you know, with my medication? I take ADHD medication. Has severely helped me in the positive way. There's a lot of shame around that because sometimes people will unfortunately abuse our medication.
Right.
And then it becomes, oh, well, do you really need that medication? I am so disabled that in my college paperwork for SMU, my psychologist who evaluated me, because you have to do it every so many years, especially right before you go out of college, she said, Jessica is so disabled, I have no idea how she graduated high school.
But yet you have 2 bachelor degrees.
Well,
and going after the master's.
Yes, I know.
And then doctorate.
I do everything out of spite, if I'm being honest.
If somebody tells you you can't do it, you're going to do it.
Yes,
Yeah,
and I think,
absolutely.
and it's not, I don't know, my psychologist sometimes thinks that it's a little, I need to probably heal that, whatever. I think it's a competitive part of myself that I really enjoy. Because back in high school, I had a math, mostly my disabilities are shown when I write stuff on paper. Mm-hmm. Like, I have the spelling ability of a second grader, and I'm not kidding. I'm not over-exaggerating. It's actually diagnostically told by my doctors. My math is below 4th grade. So, like, I can't, unless, I mean, we've tried. In college, I did like math for jocks, you know, all the math that they give to the football players. I failed that class. They put me in statistics, which apparently at SMU is supposed to be easier.
The math class for the athletes and the football players? Okay.
Failed.
I was wondering, because I've got a whole list of questions, so I'm just going to take those out now.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
but like all of these, I know, right? Don't ask me anything to do
one.
with math. My poor husband. Thank God for my accountant, because like
let me.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're
Chris.
breaking the third wall.
Yes.
So, I have just finished a stats class. Just finished it.
No, I'm not the right person.
And I am also ADHD and dyslexic.
Oh my gosh,
I would agree with
cool.
that. I would agree with that.
Like, diagnosed both, right?
Yeah.
Struggled through
my
school,
people.
struggled through grade school.
Uh-huh.
I was brought up in the early 90s where your learning disability was then chalked up that you were just one of the slow kids, is how they put you, right?
What's funnier is when they actually put you on like the special ed class group. Like I was that's why I have such a heart for special ed kids, or kids who I call special abilities. Like they would put me in the same group, so I got to know a lot of these kids that I mean that were similar to us, where they would label us as something negative. And if anything, like we could have like ran the whole school.
So, and one thing that popped in my head was, so in my dad's day, he was born in 61.
Yeah.
He was born left-handed.
Mm-hmm.
And
they
back
made
then,
him
they chalked that up to being a learning disability.
No.
Yeah.
And so he has a lot of issues today because he missed a lot back then. But with the stats thing you're mentioning, I did better in algebra than I did in stats because of my dyslexia and my ADHD. I can't wrap my head around those word problems. I can see an equation and make more sense out of it than all the words.
Did you know that dyslexics think top down?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's also a superpower I feel like that this disability gives you, is the ability to think from a top down perspective.
It is a superpower. You're right. Yeah, it is.
But I feel like I have a hard time getting granular initially.
Right.
If you can't tell me why this matters and how it impacts others and why I should care, I do not care.
Right.
It's period.
And it should be that
way. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that like I know I can play to my strengths really well. Mm-hmm. But also like my brain reacts like that. And I think sometimes people, especially teachers and coaches, they tend to like think of that person as like arrogant.
Right.
Or like we can look, I remember like, I'm sure every person, especially millennials, can relate to sitting at the dinner table being yelled at by your parent being like, why don't you understand what 2 + 2 means? And you're just sitting there like, I have no idea, because dyslexics,
It's not working through that.
yeah. And like, I don't know if this is actual like evidence or like anything backed by science, but like I've noticed with a lot of the folks and kids that I work with that are dyslexics, if you can show me in a way that makes the most sense to me, we have kinesthetic learners, we have visual learners, we have verbal auditory learners. Like if it just takes someone to teach them in the way that makes the most sense to their brain.
Right.
So like dyslexia and dysgraphia is a whole other thing. Basically, to make it in the most simplistic terms, if you got me a watch right now, I could not tell you the time. Like an analog watch,
Right.
everything has to be digital. I get lost in a box. Like I had a meeting with our mayor, and like I had to I had it this morning, and I love Lori Blanc, by the way. She's great, but I had to like look at actual photos of the building to be able to know what
where you were.
building it was. Yeah, I mean, so you can imagine being a sales rep, which was a past life of mine, in the oil field, like going to like places like, Houston or Dallas to sell, or Louisiana or North Dakota. Like I had to my poor bosses were probably
I'm
like,
sure you
"Oh
were
my God."
very tired at the end of the day
had
because
people
of
drive
all
me
that you're
around.
having to figure out.
Yes, and it makes you exhausted. It makes you
It's
exhausted
exhausting.
because
Yeah.
like I have to. My deficit is where people are like 10 steps ahead of me.
Right.
So not only do I have to like make up for that 10 steps, but like because I have so much internal shame that I've been dealing with for the majority of my life, I have had to overcome that. And luckily I've had a lot of supportive people, and I've had the support like both medically and like, with other supportive outlets like through therapy and stuff like that to help me overcome that. It's not a self-worth issue. It's just my brain is literally not wired in the neuronormative way.
My son has almost identical to you. It's like I'm looking at him with long hair.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he was diagnosed with, which is a strength, is he has the overactive brain.
Yeah.
It won't slow down. I remember when he was younger, he'd be sleepwalking. He'd be doing
Yeah,
everything.
I sleptwalk
and he's
too.
still doing things in his mind, and it won't shut down.
Yes.
And now he's in school, and he's at tech, and he's doing very well.
That's awesome.
But there's some subjects that are harder for him, but there's some that, I do not want to play board games with him.
Yeah, you could probably
Don't want to play poker with him. Don't want to play Monopoly with him. Anything like that. Anything that he can sit there and look and figure out in his mind. He's already 3 plays ahead of you.
Yes.
It's not good to play with him because I just want to throw the
I love
board
it.
everywhere and stuff. But I applaud you for that story and for sharing that. I thank you for that. There's some people that don't want to share that because
No.
of those things we talked about, that I feel like I'm different. I feel like I don't measure up.
Yeah.
And I just applaud you for just pushing through whatever the world wants to throw at you and keep you down, because there's medicine, we're going to put you in this corner, we're going to put you in that corner, and you're not going to be successful, but yet you have done that. And if the world has put that on you, you've done that, and I applaud you for that. But I do have to ask you, is there a bad dipping sauce for Oreo cookies?
Ooh.
See, that's my squirrel brain there.
But okay, so like this does relate to like the ADHD thing. What I'm learning, and I'm not certified to say any of this or qualified to say any of this, but ADHD and autism are actually considered more on the spectrum,
Right,
and they're more closer than they are like not related.
right.
And that's been something I've really had to like understand about myself, because textures like
Right.
really freak me out. Like I've never been able to eat a sandwich because it gets soggy. So like
Well, I don't like soggy sandwiches
know.
either.
So the idea,
That's good, yeah.
like, I need like mayo or no,
Yeah.
like
But an Oreo and
to put an Oreo in milk would literally make me want to throw up. Like,
Right.
No. So like,
but
or
milk is
peanut
milk a
butter?
dipping sauce?
No, but to most people, I
Yeah.
would say most people, because the branding of Oreo,
Yeah.
would say dip it in milk. Like I
Right.
don't do
That's the-
cereal.
Yeah.
Like I could do peanut butter. Is that a sauce? That's more of a substance.
It's more of a substance. Yeah, I'm thinking, like
Chocolate maybe melted
honey
chocolate.
mustard,
No. Honey mustard and
ranch.
chicken nuggets are the best.
Yeah, I'm,
Well, of
I'm
course.
really hung up on you calling it sauce.
Maybe it's like a
It's
condiment?
dipping sauce.
I,
Dipping sauces, like ranch and honey mustard and.
Do you know what the new trending
barbecue.
condiment is of 2023 or
Wait.
2024 is mustard.
Just plain old.
Okay, go on TikTok, and there's like this chick, and she looks like she stuck her finger into an electrical socket because she curls her hair, and it looks like ramen noodles. But she owns this fitness brand, and all she eats is like vegetables and mustard, and like sausage and mustard. And
Okay, I'm in on that. Are you a TikToker?
It's like a thing. Oh, I love TikTok. It's so bad. I'm like addicted to it.
So my
Okay.
best friend went viral on
Shut
TikTok.
up, no way.
Because he has an account called Catch Up with Doug.
That's so cool.
And
Wait, what's it called?
Catch Up with Doug.
Catch Up with Doug. I
And
love
His
it.
cat.
he started it out because he was talking about the history of like ketchup.
Oh my God, I love that.
And he went viral because he went through like what they say is actual ketchup and isn't ketchup.
Right.
And how Heinz is not ketchup because the
Sugar,
sugar
right?
to vinegar.
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
that.
Yeah, great point.
And it skyrocketed all because he talked about ketchup.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just saying, social
How
media.
did he yell ketchup? That's what I don't know.
Well,
He just yelled ketchup.
It's genius because, like, what I love about TikTok and social media is that it provides equity for people who don't have access to it. So, like, if you're able to,
Great point.
like, if I don't know, a dyslexic like swimmer who has ADHD who somehow ended up here, like, I'm able. My entire business was based off of Instagram. Like,
Really?
my entire business
The swimming?
blew up because of Instagram.
Because of Instagram.
Yeah. So like I'm never, as much as like my family hates social media, I can never not appreciate it.
Right.
Because my business is the entire reason why, like, I mean, Instagram is the entire reason, dyslexic, literally. You can see it, and sometimes I'll say things in the wrong order, so I apologize. But Instagram is the entire reason why my business is
That's awesome.
successful, because people would take videos and then post them.
Post them. Well, let's talk about the business
Yes.
then. I know we could go on for hours talking about, learning disorders and disabilities and ketchup
I know.
and Oreos, but I want to know about the business because
Yeah.
that's where I found you.
Yes.
That's what intrigued me because I'm like, how do you start a swimming school?
Yes.
So
good
where-
question.
Walk me through that because you swam at SMU. You swam for Texas Longhorns Aquatics.
Yes, at TXLA, which is a
Which I
division.
still let you on my show.
I know. Well, I'm also in grad school at Texas, so sorry.
Well, and I went to Tech.
Oh, sorry.
So yeah, so I let everybody's sin slide,
Everyone's
right?
just gonna like
Everybody's got
cancel out
issues.
right now. They don't.
No, they'll stay in now because he yelled ketchup, which is great, and they know I love Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
So that's why I had to bring the
Chick-fil-A's
Chick-fil-A sauce up.
perfect. I love Chick-fil-A
because
sauce.
yeah, it's awesome. But so you swam for SMU. I love SMU. I'm from Mesquite,
Oh, cool. Yeah.
which is right outside. Yeah, it's Dallas, not Dallas proper.
Right.
You lived in Highland Park. You went to SMU. You swam there. You went to Cox School of Business.
Yep.
Why did you start? And I would love to hear some swim
Yes.
stories.
Oh my
Because
god.
I've got some swim questions for you.
Okay. Let me.
Why swimming?
My parents are gonna laugh.
So let's do this. Why swimming?
Mm-hmm.
And then why starting a business about swimming?
Okay. First question. Why did I fall in love with swimming, and why did it resonate with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So to give you perspective, I am not coordinated. Okay. Another thing with ADHD and autism,
Right.
is we tend to be very floppy
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, not a lot of muscular control, not a lot of coordination. That was me to a T. Watching me play soccer, my mom says was painful. Like for one thing, I was scared of the ball. The second thing is I really wanted to like pick flowers.
Oh, of course, you need to do that.
Absolutely. But somehow I ended up making it to the A League. I'm just
Yeah.
my entire life is kind of oxymoronic. So like I was not coordinated, but somehow I ended up playing college sports.
The uncoordinated thing on the ADHD is perfect.
Yes.
But my son played hockey.
I love hockey.
So he's on skates with a blade and a stick
you're
in
like-
his hand. And I'm like,
can imagine.
wait a minute.
You're like,
Let's go
please
to
don't
picking
crash.
flowers.
No, no joke. Like, go do something way less contact sport. But anyway, so my parents put me in swimming because it's
Right.
a life skill that you should have, and it's a lifelong sport. A lot of people think like you just do lessons for a couple months and you're good. No, it's something a lot like tennis and golf. It can really help you for the rest of your life. Well, I was so bad at swimming that my parents were begging me to quit. But I was like, I want to do swim team. Well, no, it was terrible. I would purposely disqualify myself to get the purple ribbon because I'm a 90s kid. We gave trophies to everybody, okay?
Right.
So, like,
You are a 90s
yeah,
kid.
I know,
Yeah.
oh my goodness. But like the disqualification ribbons were purple because the stroke judges did not have the heart to just let kids fail.
And
at
you
4.
wanted the purple.
Yes. So I would purposely like mess up
Brilliant.
so that I could get my favorite color.
Yeah.
And then I would go brag to my coach, like, look, I got purple. And she's like, what?
What?
Okay, so that's one story.
Barney's purple too.
Exactly. I
90s
love
girl.
Barney.
Yeah.
Love Barney and
Yeah.
Barbie. But then also, like, to give you perspective, I was never competitive in college sports.
Right.
I know. I wish I was kidding. It's kind of embarrassing to talk about now because now I feel like
You're
I've
not
wasted
competitive,
people's
but you swam
time.
competitively.
Yes. So like in college at state, okay, I was ranked like 3rd, I think, in the whole state for like I can't remember. It was like either
You were ranked 3rd.
backstroke. Yeah, I was. And I almost missed my race.
I have the
because,
3rd ranked swimmer on my show.
Yeah,
This is awesome.
Well, so I almost missed my race because I was talking to my competition. And the stroke judges knew me because
Wait, you were talking to the girl you were about to swim against.
yes.
What about?
Because
were
I
you paying
liked
her
her
off?
shoe-
Or
no,
were you liked her bag or?
Well, I liked her shoes and like
Of course, you liked her shoes.
I was very like pretty much naive my entire life. I was like,
Right.
"Oh my gosh, no, like swimming is a way to meet friends." Like
It is.
I didn't really take it seriously. And I think that's the reason why I was so successful like at a young age was because I was like, "Oh no, this is all for fun. Like we can just stop.
Right.
We don't like, you know, I knew I had to swim to get to college, but like to me it took the pressure out if I didn't make it a big deal.
Sure.
So it wasn't like a manipulative thing that I was doing. I just genuinely was like, "Oh my gosh, no, I have to meet these people because I want them to know sincerely I wanted them to win."
That's awesome.
Because
You
I
wanted
didn't
them to win.
care. Like I just didn't. And that really upset some of my coaches because they're like, "What do you mean you don't care?" Like I was placing top 16 consistently
Right.
all throughout high school in the entire nation. Like I wasn't as good as like some of my peers, like by any means.
Right.
But you know, I was going to zones and I was doing really well. Like I won open water championship in Florida and in Atlanta, where you swim open water races, and like I was doing pretty good. Like, but I didn't. I was just doing it for fun. Because for me, if you can like frame it in your head,
Awesome.
because like who cares? At the end of the day, who cares? Who cares if you get a scholarship? Who cares if you go swim in college? Who cares in my like it's kind of a joke to me to watch some of these like Brads, Dads, and Chads like make fun of, you know, Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Like at the end of the day, who cares? Who cares? What matters?
Careful.
I know. But hey, Kansas City Chiefs, at
careful.
least the Lubbock folks will like me, whatever. But all that to be said, like at the end of the day, what matters is like how do you make people feel? Like, are you a good person? Like to me, swimming was irrelevant based off of like who I am as a person.
Swimming
That's
was
what
your
matters.
mechanism?
Swimming.
Did you say that? Or your
swimming is-
avenue to meet people?
Yes, I would say it was a catalyst for me to meet people and for me to feel finally safe to be fully me.
And to be seen and to be
Yes,
known?
because swimming, well, not so much that. I didn't really care about being seen or being known.
Right.
Because, like, I just don't care. Like, I was on a relay that won national age group records, and that record held for, like, 5 years. And I didn't care. Like, we were in a magazine. I was just like, I don't, like...
So when you got an award, like a medal,
I don't...
or something, did you just kind of like toss it over?
Yeah, and it
then
drove
keep
my
going?
parents nuts.
Like when we
I
go
just
into
don't care.
Chick-fil-A now?
Yeah, I don't like it. Winning does not matter.
Right.
It doesn't. Sports does not matter. What matters, the reason why sports does matter is because it gives kids like me, the ones who think differently,
Right.
who don't fit into the proverbial, like they're a square peg in a round hole.
Right.
Like
They don't fit the mold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that is why sports matters. That is why instilling confidence in your children and equipping and empowering them to be their own type of person matters. And sports can do that for a lot of kids. It can take a kid who's not coordinated, who can't read correctly, who can't do math, who has attention issues, and can make them feel like they are safe and they're in a place where they're appreciated.
So starting this business, is it more of helping the kids become who they
Yes.
are needing to be,
Yes.
or finding their skill, and then swimming second? Would that be right?
I would say so. what I tell people is when you do swim lessons with Head Above Water Midland, and I'm not trying to make this a sales pitch, but like
Please do.
I'm very passionate about, sometimes people are they think when they purchase swim lessons with me, they're like, this is just swim lessons. Why are you overcomplicating it? And that's not how I see it. And then they do their orientation with me and they're like, oh my gosh, this is way more than what I thought. And that's always surprising to me, because to me, swim lessons with us has more to do with equipping and empowering your child to be the best version of themselves. And where it works really well is if a parent is coachable, are they willing to work with me? Because I don't necessarily think that I'm an expert on what I do. I research the heck out of everything I do, but you are the expert on your child. You tell me what I need to know about your child to make their experience better. It's the parents that have a really hard time being vulnerable enough, being willing to see who maybe they are as people, to understand their children more.
Right.
That really struggle with that, with my program. And I would say that not a lot of people do, because I can usually meet people where they're at.
Right.
But I think what matters the most, especially as you become a parent, I think the second you have that kid or adopt that child, you realize that you can't control anything. Right. Your ego goes out the door.
True.
And, well, hopefully.
Yeah.
I think once you hit the toddler
ego?
years, I know. Well, once you hit the toddler years, like you start to realize, like, oh my God, I literally cannot control anything.
Right.
Like toddlers are insane.
Yeah.
2-year-olds and 4-year-olds are my favorite. Like that whole 2, 3, 4, because they literally teach you humility.
Right.
And you cannot escape it. You can't escape a little 3-year-old being like, Miss Jess, did you know? Like they'll tell me some family secret, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't think your mom wanted me to tell you.
Wait, let me TikTok this.
Right?
Real quick.
No. But like, it's what I do is so. Like, and I think that it just goes back down to my whole life story. What I do is a reflection of how I see humanity.
Right.
If you are willing to connect and you're willing to be vulnerable, magical things can happen. And what that magical thing is making people feel like just because they are on this earth, their story can impact others. I don't care if you grew up in a very wealthy family and like you don't really feel like you have a path because your whole family set it out for you and you have everything planned out because your parents had goals for you by age 2.
Right.
Okay? There's something in that. And I don't know if it's because I have a past history in ministry, but like where I adopted that, but I genuinely think that that's a string that has tied my entire story into my own coaching practice, where I truly believe that every single person in this world has a sense to them that it just takes one person to bring it out of them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times, like, I think any parent can relate to this. Usually it's not just your parents that do that.
Sure.
You know, there's been studies that have been out. I think The Economist did something recently talking about Americans are losing the 3rd place, which is where do you go to after school?
Right.
Where do you go to after, you know,
great point.
You know, the regular places that you go to. The kids need places to go hang out. Kids need places to express themselves and have safe adults with them that are going to help them be better. Right? And I do not subscribe to this whole, and maybe this is the reason why I wasn't competitive during my childhood. Like on paper, it looks like I was competitive, but in reality, like I've only just recently gotten competitive, and that's because of grad school. And it has more to do with like, there's an attorney in my cohort and he thinks he's smarter than me. And he really is. And I'm trying to like be competitive with him and he's really brilliant. He's made me better. Yeah. But all that to be said, I think it takes that 3rd space, sports, theater, art, computer science, coding, whatever. That place where your child can go and just be a kid and be influenced by adults that are safe and have been trained to bring the best out of your kid. And like this goes into like, you know, trauma-informed care and all that good stuff. And that's something I really advocate for. Some of the research that I'm doing at University of Texas at Austin in my grad program is talking about coaching abuse. I want to research with my he's like
It's
my
a popular topic these days.
yeah. I mean, like any kid growing up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s knows that coach that was like, "Suck it up, kid. It's fine. Put some dirt on it. You'll be fine."
Yep.
But like then we see all this research where kids are really struggling with their mental health and like trying to understand the world outside of sports after they retire,
Right.
or God forbid, they are asked to retire because of they're medically redshirted.
Right.
I've seen so many of my friends, have it be football players, have it be some of my friends who made it to the NFL and then got hurt. Like I've seen these people who I truly care about, they don't know who they are without their sport.
Right.
It's
That's their identity.
yes.
Yeah.
And like I can say that to an extent, but it wasn't really anything that my parents did that made me different. It's
Right.
just I internalized the fact that what matters at the end of the day is what my soul is. Am I a good person? Am I serving others? Am I putting like we have a rule in my family with my husband and I and our kids. Number one rule, be kind, think of others, and listen. So I don't care if someone doesn't like you, you need to hear them out.
Right.
Because everyone is deserving of respect.
Absolutely.
Okay? You don't have to agree with them, you know? But these three things are things that I think every kid needs to learn. And I believe, like, you know, organizations like the Big Brothers, Big Sisters at the Permian Basin does a great job doing that.
Right.
We did basketball.
Great organization.
Oh, yeah. My friend Andrew Jones, she's the executive director. So I go there, I sign my kid up for basketball. And I'm like, this is going to be so funny. And in their gym, they have a sign that I want to like frame. It says, "This is your kid is just a kid. This is just an interleague basketball.
Right. He's not
Group.
going to the NBA from
No,
here.
no college
Yeah.
scholarships." This is what they say.
Yeah.
No college scholarships are being signed today.
That's all. That
So,
is
like,
awesome.
I know. So this goes back into my research, right? So
Yeah.
like what I'm wanting to research is because children are a protected class, you can't necessarily do, you know, research on them. But what
Right.
you can do, this is the easier path to get funding at least. I'm wanting to look at NCAA athletes and get kind of a qualitative and quantitative analysis on what their experiences were with bad coaches and good coaches. What made the good coaches good? Was it
Right.
that they were taking consistent training to understand how to really promote the mental health of their athletes, or was it the bad coach who really said some negative things that
was
they
just a bad coach.
Yeah.
Just a bad person.
I know there's a lot of adults that have the keys to an institution that should not be in power in regards to college, regards to youth sports.
Yeah.
So
I like how you said that.
mhm,
And it's not just coaches, it's parents.
yes, but I will tell you now. So our basketball team that we have, it's very chill. It's a very
Yeah.
cool group. 50% of our basketball team is ex-college athletes. The other half is not.
Right.
Okay. I had to play sports because my mom sat me down in high school and she said, "I know that you're not the most competitive person, but I need you to understand we cannot afford to send you to school that I think will care for you in the way that you need."
Right.
Okay. It was going to be fair, I think looking back, it was probably going to be a stretch anyway for me to go to a state school. When you look on paper, oh, SMU, she went to SMU. No,
Right.
I had to go to SMU because my class was 20, like full of 20 people instead of 150. I was going to fail out if I didn't have like
Yeah.
accountability and no one knew who I was. So anyway,
That preconceived notion that
yes,
you're a private school girl.
Yes,
Yeah.
which
so
I-
you're
no.
rich, very smart,
yes.
well-to-do,
hmm
going to have everything served on a platter to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And my mom in high school, she was like, "I know that you're not the most competitive person, but I need you to understand that like the school that you're going to need is going to have to be a little bit different."
Right.
So luckily I signed with SMU, and, you know, having that one-on-one attention really did help me. And now it helps me understand that anyone can learn anything as long as you do
Absolutely.
have that adult
Yeah.
there to help you and like steward you. So all that to be
That's a
said.
great point. You know, my son goes to, or did before he went
Mhm.
to Tech, to Liberty,
Yeah.
Lynchburg.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They have an online
Yeah, they do.
academy for high school. And he started off at Midland Classical here.
Oh,
And
great.
it just wasn't working for him. He
Mhm.
wasn't finding himself being
Mhm.
successful. So our thought, and my wife said, we're going to find something that works for him,
That's
that
great.
works in his skill set where he can be successful. And then he graduates and walks the stage
great.
with several hundred people in Lynchburg, Virginia.
That's
that
cool.
Not a lot of kids get the chance to do that, you know. So I'm like you in a lot of ways, and one of those is there's not a template for every kid.
No, the problem is like it's really difficult as a college athlete, ex-college athlete, to really see the value in college athletics if your parents are not seeing it for what it is. The NCAA is the most systematic, most terrible organization that takes advantage of people who don't have the finances to do like be able to go to college. They take advantage of parents. They take advantage of people who of lower socioeconomic status all the time. My friend who owns Athletes to Athletes, which is an organization that works with parents to help advocate college scholarships and NIL deals, specifically talks about this. Like they go into detail about like maybe University of Texas is not where your kid needs to sign for baseball.
Right.
Maybe we should consider a smaller school because we can get more money. Maybe we don't take the Coca-Cola dealership, deal with the NIL because they're only going to pay your kid $10,000.
Right.
Let's take maybe a car dealership or something as an NIL deal, because it's going to offer you more opportunities. The problem with this system is that I'm researching this right now in one of my classes, is that the NCAA was never meant to manage student athletes in the capacity that they are now. It was literally started to help youth amateurs to get an education and to be able to play sports.
Yeah.
The NCAA is now worth so much money.
So much money.
So all that to be said, it's a difficult thing when you're as a coach, and I run a swim school, which was my sport. It's difficult for me to tell people like I think your kid shouldn't go to college for sports because of how difficult it is, but you don't want to ruin that chance for them. So all that to be said, like Head Above Water Midland is a place where kids can feel like they can be themselves. They're going to be taught in a way that their parents and me and other people in their lives think is going to be best for them, and that's through collaboration. Mm-hmm. I believe it takes a village to raise a child.
Absolutely.
And if you are not allowing that to happen, you're doing your child a disservice.
Right. Agreed.
So, and I never judge any parents, but you do have to be willing to be vulnerable as a parent. And the sooner you can do that, the more likely your child will be a happy soul as they get older.
Right.
And my parents
I'm going to judge parents. I'm going to judge them because I had that parent. I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
Because they made me I had to stay out of the water for 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
After I ate
About
before I
puking?
could swim.
That's really funny. Yeah.
Can you
that
kill
rules,
that thought?
Well, okay.
Is that true? Is that not true?
Okay, I will say I've had parents that have had Chick-fil-A. I'm not kidding. I'm not just saying it because you like Chick-fil-A. That they've eaten Chick-fil-A on the edge of my pool deck and then had swim lessons. And they've puked. That's the worst. It's so expensive to clean up puke
Never
in a pool.
puke Chick-fil-A, though.
I know, it's so gross. It's so gross.
What a waste.
And I was pregnant with my daughter, and like
I'm sure
I
that
had,
set you off.
Yeah, I was morning sick the whole pregnancy.
Yeah.
It was so terrible. Anyway, it was not fun. Just don't do it. Don't eat
just don't do it.
when you're about to swim.
How long can you hold your breath underwater?
I used to do it longer. We used to do something that's technically illegal in the NCAA world and the USA swimming world.
Please share the illegal thing you've done.
It's called lung busters and
What?
lung busters. And the reason why it's illegal is because you go like a minute 30, minute 40 without breathing. And kids were dying of it was bad. One of the most undiagnosed health conditions in swimming is enlarged heart. Right. So now the USA Swimming, once you get to a certain level, like they really do encourage you to go see a cardiologist. So you could have a widowmaker.
When you're swimming and you're in the water, do you sweat?
I don't like sweating, so I think I do, but I don't like to feel
you're already
it.
wet.
I don't like to feel it.
Yeah.
Like my husband.
Would you know you're sweating?
You get rosy.
You get rosy.
You don't feel hot. Like you feel hot, but you don't feel sweaty.
You get rosy.
My husband makes fun of me. We work out at F45.
Yeah.
And he makes fun of me because I literally can't. Like I hate. Like it's a texture thing. You know what I mean? It just feels weird when you're sweating. And he's like, "How do you not know that you're? I mean, you sweat when you're in the pool." I'm like, "But I didn't feel it."
But I didn't know it.
Yeah, I don't like to be aware.
Wow.
So.
Okay, tell me again. Head Above Water Midland.
Yes.
How does somebody get a hold of you?
Oh, you just find me on either
TikTok,
Instagram or my website, www.headabovewatermidland.com.
Last question. What do you want to be known for?
That's a good question. Generally speaking, elevator pitch as a good human.
Yeah.
But what I'm really focused on is making
Dig deep.
Yeah.
What do you want to be
the
known?
more like we're having coffee
Yeah.
at Far West, which is my favorite place. That is a plug.
You can't hear anybody.
That is
Restaurant
my favorite
anyway.
place.
It
I
is a great-
love
so
Far
loud.
West.
Yeah.
It's the best,
Yeah.
especially Saturday morning. I would say I think about this a lot. Like when
Yeah.
people come to my funeral, I want people to say, I felt at home with Jessica. I want people to feel like I can hold space for them regardless of where they came from, who they are, who their parents are not, where if they went to school, if they didn't go to school,
Right.
who they are. I want them to feel like I can see that in them and then I can truly appreciate that. I don't want anybody leaving, hanging out with me, feeling like they're not appreciated and that they don't have a place on this earth.
Right.
Because I've lost too many friends to know, that no matter how difficult it gets, you should still be here.
Right.
Give it another day.
Yeah.
So,
You need to write a book. And I will be the first to
You're
buy
very
that book.
sweet.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for being here. I
This has
really
been
appreciate
great.
it.
I appreciate that. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you next time.
Elevate your operation with Performance Chemical Company, the pioneers in redefining chemical solutions for the oil and gas industry in the Permian Basin. Unveiling groundbreaking ideas since 2017, our dry chemistry plant stands as a testament to innovation. Our products and services revolutionize water treatment, production, midstream, and saltwater disposals. We're your strategic partners in optimizing investments, slashing operating expenses. Performance Chemical Company. How you get there matters.